the buyer's invisible. The patient, the customer, they are invisible today. They are consuming information, determining who their provider of choice is going to be without you even knowing that you were even chosen or in the selection process until they actually decided in their head, I'm going to call Tyson because I saw the video. It made sense to me, and you didn't even know you were the provider of choice. And so that's hard for a lot of people to accept, is that they have to jump into the conversation early, not later. It's, if you can't gain somebody's awareness and attention early on in their process of determining if they need a service and how can they solve this problem, you've missed the boat by the time they're ready to make the decision because they've already decided.
Do you want to earn more, work less, and enjoy what you do each day? It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. Now, my guest today is Patrick McFadden from Richmond, Virginia. He's a marketing consultant and founder of Indispensable Marketing. And today, we're talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is marketing. Patrick, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, Tyson. How are you?
I am great. And thank you for completing the form on my website and coming on my podcast. You're the first person, I only put that form on there about a week ago. So you're the first person to actually go in there and use it. And I thank you very much for doing that. And you said it was nice and simple.
Absolutely. It's one of the most simplest forms I've ever used.
Yeah, there weren't tough questions. The main thing I want whenever anybody comes onto this podcast is to add value to the people that are actually listening to it. So when they walk away, like my promise is, they're either going to earn more, work less, or enjoy what they do more each day. And I know marketing helps you earn more if you do it right.
You hit the nail on the coffin right there. Really, that's the most profound message of marketing, is that effective marketing, when it works, it's done right. That's the secret of it. And sales, the sales aspect of marketing is only hard because marketing isn't effective. When you really go through it and you look at why do people have a hard time selling the solution or the subscription or the service or the product, it's because marketing isn't effective enough at communicating the why somebody should be buying, the reasons and the greatest value of what this solution is going to do for them.
So you're saying, like, a lot of people, I think a lot of people still think that marketing is just putting an ad, okay, years ago to be in the newspaper, but now some people think, if I just put an ad online on Facebook, therefore I'm now marketing, and everyone's just going to come flooding through the front door.
And that's actually a big difference. People often do confuse advertising from marketing.
Yeah.
And advertising is a subset of marketing, and it just happens to be the most visual form of it. So most people assume that they're marketing when they're advertising, when marketing is everything. How you pick up the phone, how your dress appearance to a sales meeting, what you say on a call, how your business cards look. Everything is marketing, but advertising is just when you're actually spending money on a form of it, which is a real difference.
Yeah, and I like what I always say that marketing to me is everything you do from the time you wake up in the morning until the time you go to bed. You should really be marketing your business.
That is so true. In fact, I believe that the sales, in terms of, because also sales is really another subset of marketing, if you really had to put it there. And my true belief is that the sale is not complete until the customer gets the result that they wanted. Because at the end of the day, for a lot of business owners, a happy customer generates the most new business and referrals. And so one of the key points of indispensable marketing is saying that marketing is a process. And so, how do we then and take a process approach to and getting someone to say, "This is how I found out about you," and walking them through your business to the point that they actually do become a happy customer, but doing it with a purpose, doing it on with intention, designing your marketing to end up with a happy customer is what I think is the secret.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because a lot of people think that when they make that sale, their marketing is done. But the sale is the first step of the long-term value of that actual customer, patient, or client, whatever you want to call them.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at anything, I think my definition of marketing is getting someone who has a need to first become aware of you and then trust you enough to buy. And when you look at that from a customer's perspective, I always say that trust is always on trial. So that means that you constantly have to be making sure that your marketing is not eroding trust, but building it up. And that's through every touch point, through every interaction. And that means that it starts over either every day or, you know, every time you think you landed that customer, now you put them back through that process of how do we continually make sure that our customer is aware of us? How do we make sure that they don't say, "I didn't know you did that. I
Yeah.
didn't know you did that." And I didn't, so it's that process of always bringing them back to awareness, educating them, building that trust, and moving that along forever. I mean, it never ends.
And I like what you said then about awareness too, because someone might have a customer and they just assume that that customer is aware of every service that your business actually provides, whereas you don't know their awareness level when they even first walk into your business and say, "I need this widget." That might be the only thing they know about your business because they were told by somebody else, but there's so much more that you can actually offer them, and over time, you've got to educate them about that.
Yeah, we at my company, we've actually given that process a name, and we call it service introductions. So, what are you going to put in place to introduce the services, all of them, to your customers? Are you going to mention it in your newsletters? When you follow up on calls, are you going to look for other problems that your services can solve? Are you going to, are you going to dive deep? What are the things you could do to make sure you're doing service introductions? It's because of the internet. And so, if you shift to the reason that this buying has changed and selling and marketing has changed is the access to information. Um, in fact, I have a mechanic and he's constantly mad when people walk through the door and they say, "Yeah, I looked at Google and I think I have this problem with my engine." And he
Yeah.
says, "Look, let me look at it first and do my diagnosis because and the same thing with a lot of medical practitioners. People now walk into the office and they say, "Hey, I looked online, so I'm assuming I have this. Can you go ahead?" And then the practitioner's like, "Hold up, wait a second. Let me do my diagnosis. Let me review and examine." And so my point with telling that story was you talked about how you have all those different services that
Yeah.
aligns back to the person's problem. What people search for online is information to solve their problems. And with the thing about being in business today is that people don't always know the solution, but they do know they have knee pain. They do know they have back pain. They do know that their arm is hurting and so by them, the customer knowing their problem, I think it's our job today to educate them with information around the problems they have and tying it back to our solution. So if you are a yoga instructor,
Yep.
and you promoted your filtered water, that you have the softest mats, that the environment is elegant and all this stuff, but I'm the customer and I'm like, I have a headache. And you have never once said that yoga solves my headache. I'm online typing ways to relieve my headache, right? I'm searching for the problems that I have. And if you don't create an article, a video, some piece of information addressing my problem before your solution, you've missed me. And
Yeah.
so I, I think for today, for all of us, we have to be creating content, whether that's a video or article or whatever, or a quote or whatever you want, a graphic that's based around the problem that our customers can identify, but lead them back to saying, did you also know that we have the solution?
Oh, we are so much on the same page with all this. I'm loving this. One of the best articles I ever wrote when I had my podiatry clinic was, "Why do my feet hurt when I walk on the beach?" And every month when I go and have a look at Google Analytics and all that, that was always the number one article, because we live in Cairns, which is tropical North Queensland. There's beaches all over the
Mm-hmm.
place. That's what people do on the weekends. And I had that many people coming in all the time saying, "Why do my feet hurt when I walk on the beach?" And I went, "I'm going to write an article on this, because that is a question people keep asking." As soon as I wrote that article, we got even more and more people coming in saying, "I saw that article online and that answered the question going on in my head." And people need to do that more often.
Yep. And the situation you just described was the buyer's invisible. The patient, the customer, they are invisible today. They are consuming information, determining who their provider of choice is going to be without you even knowing that you were even chosen or in the selection process until they actually decided in their head, I'm going to call Tyson because I saw the video.
Yeah.
It made sense to me, and you didn't even know you were the provider of choice. And so that's hard for a lot of people to accept, is that they have to jump into the conversation early, not later. It's, if you can't gain somebody's awareness and attention early on in their process of determining if they need a service and how can they solve this problem, you've missed the boat by the time they're ready to make the decision because they've already decided.
Do you find some people, the mistake they make is they write articles or they shoot videos on things that nobody is really interested in? It's because they're interested in that, or they think, "Oh, well, that's a really cool subject, I'm going to write about that," but that's not what people are actually searching for.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I call tactics before strategy, which I've also, for small business owners, and a way to explain it, dubbed that um, prescription before diagnosis. And what it really comes down to is that if you are really focused on an ideal customer, or when people talk about this thing of target audience or target market,
Yeah.
what I find is that for a small business, you need to go deeper than that. You need to go from a target market down to an ideal patient or customer. And when I say ideal patient or customer, I'm also saying, is there an ideal problem that makes up your market or your customer?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people miss that because it may not just be a customer. It may be that your practice or your firm is uniquely designed to solve a certain problem. And so the problem is what makes the ideal customer, not just the other things. Um, and so it comes back to when you understand the problems that your ideal customer are trying to solve, then you know exactly what your tactic, your prescription should be. Your content should be based on trying to address that problem and walk that customer down the path of educating them and showing them how things they could do to relieve it, and maybe coming in for examination or consultation and things like that. But it's what you talked about. People are creating content that's irrelevant because they
Yeah.
are not starting with the strategy.
Well, I've said to people in the past, it's that the strategy doesn't change, but the tactics do. How you actually market your business, you adapt that based on the strategy you're trying to achieve.
100%. In fact, when you really look at marketing as a process, every business needs the same thing. They need an ideal customer. They need a problem people are that a problem that people are willing to pay for, and they need a way to communicate that message. Regardless of the business, that's the process of the strategy that every business needs. And then what changes obviously is maybe you have a customer that's a little bit older, and so their attention is maybe on live daytime TV and maybe in magazines.
Yeah.
So the tactics change because your ideal customer change, which you said is strategy. The process of getting the strategy is always the same, What dictates the tactics is the ideal customer within that strategy, because you have to know the best way to reach them.
That makes perfect sense. And I know even in my previous businesses in podiatry and other people I know in other businesses, they all have it's that 80-20 rule. 80% of your income or your business comes from usually a particular group of people or a particular type of problems. And I think that's the same across the board, every industry, every profession.
Oh yeah, I see that all the time. Typically, you have to fire some customers, and it's hard. But I mean, most businesses evolve, and typically, you no longer are suited to serve the customer that you brought on years ago,
Yeah,
because your services have evolved to the point where you're now solving or addressing a new problem, and it's okay because that means you're not serving them as well as you could. So, to really look out for your customers' best interests and just say, look, when we first started, uh, this is something that was a sweet spot for us, and we could serve you well in accomplishing that. But now, and in any service business, it really comes down to attention, because customers like to be loved on. So a lot of times what ends up happening is it's just by default, you spend less time with that customer. They're getting less of your attention, and they're wooed by somebody else.
yeah. And I also think when you become more focused on the type of business that you want to run, your marketing dollar goes further because you're targeting it into a certain area instead of just this shotgun approach of trying to shoot it everywhere, hoping that you actually hit somebody.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you said you're trying to reach everybody, I would say you don't even have enough money.
Yeah. I always find that funny when I say to people, "So who's your target market?" Or, who's your patient avatar? And they go, "Oh, anybody." And I'm like, "So anyone that breathes could be a potential patient." And they go, "Yes." I'm going, "That's a costly mistake."
So, and you know how I usually I combat that, and I usually expose that answer with this one. Usually wins it all every time. I'll say, okay, so your customer is anyone who breathes, or I'll say, well, great. So if I go out there and I see somebody who's 18, still in high school, and they're working at a part-time job, and tell them, oh, well, no, they can't afford me. So it's not everyone.
Yeah.
Because the 18-year-old gets it every time. A real estate agent that says, anybody looking for a home? Well, I know an 18-year-old looking for a home, but they're still in high school. I mean, are they a good fit?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think sometimes if you throw examples out to people, and I know we've done the same thing, I'll say, okay, so what you're saying is the person who's currently unemployed is your ideal patient, and they're going, well, no, they need to have a certain amount of income to be able to pay them. And you go, okay, so we're going to rule out anyone that's unemployed. We go, what about people who are over 90 and living in nursing homes? And they go, well, no, that doesn't apply. So I go, what about 80 in a nursing home? No. What about anyone in a nursing home? No. Okay. So as you start asking the questions, you start bringing it down. And what I also find surprising is when you say to someone, so are you targeting more, do you see more males or females in your business? And they go, oh, it's about 50-50. But when they go and measure it, sometimes it is slanted. It could be 70-30, and they don't even realize that.
Yeah, and that's important because, marketing is not magic. I always tell people that marketing amplifies what you already have. And so if you don't have anything, it's nothing to amplify. Marketing won't work.
Yeah.
And so and it's important because those decisions, like you said, if it's 70-30, then the marketing spend has to follow the data because the data has been proven, and so it's not magic. It's making smart decisions based off the data that you receive back. If it's 70-30 women, well, hey, maybe we need to figure out where are these women hanging out? Where are they shopping? What social networks are they on? How do they make referrals? When do they make referrals? Is it occurring when they're getting their nails done, or when, if you can get, the deeper you get inside of that, then you know how to show up.
Yeah.
Is it happening when they're doing wine tastings, and then maybe you sponsor the wine tasting, and somebody walks up and says, I'm a customer. What? That? Let me tell you what they did for me. And you have all.
No, I think that's a good point because I was talking to someone recently and they said, I want to get more of this type of patient. I said, okay, that's great. I said, is that your ideal patient? They said, yes, that is my ideal patient. I said, shoot out, go and pick your the last 100 that you've had in your business and send out a survey that asks them particular questions: where they hang out, what car do they drive, where do they go on weekends, do they go to the movies, what radio station they listen to. I said, if you can find out as much info about them as you can, I said, that'll let you know where the rest of them are hanging out. And they'd never thought of it that way.
Oh yeah. And the way that the approach that you just described is also the cheapest,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you may find that there's little community or neighborhood newsletters. Maybe they all live around a certain suburb or neighborhood, or maybe they're in some meetup group, or you never know the little pockets now. And then social media, it's a lot cheaper to target geographically in a certain area.
Yeah.
I mean, like that spend just gets a lot more targeted, a lot more refined and effective.
Yeah, well, one of the things we also did when we were sent out this survey was we used to get, on average, I'd say about 90% back. And somebody said, that is a lot. That's a lot to actually get back from the survey. And we used to do it old school. We'd post it out to them. We'd enclose a envelope, self-addressed envelope, back to ourselves. But we'd also enclose a $2 scratchy. Those scratchy things where you see if you win some money?
Yeah.
We'd enclose one of them with a little letter saying, hey, just for filling this in, thank you, here's a scratchy. And by the way, if you happen to win a lot of money, we do not mind you coming back and spending most of it at our business. And the amount of patients that would come in later and actually have they would laugh at that, thinking that was really funny and a little bit cheeky, that we're telling them, don't feel bad about coming back and spending it with us.
I like that idea. That's pretty funny, actually.
But it really increased the amount of people that, I think when you got the scratchy and you filled it in, you went, you know what, I feel obliged now to just fill in this survey, which is really quick, put it in the envelope, which already had a stamp on it, the next time they're at a post office. And yeah, we get at least 90% back.
Well, another thing that you mentioned that I want to point out to your listeners is that your client made it easy by having it self-addressed, the stamp already on it. And that's what I try to tell people. When it comes to referrals and surveys, if you make it easy, people will do it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've seen over and over and over. You have to make it easy. And if you do so, people will take the action.
So that's why I don't do online surveys. Sometimes I'll receive one and say, this will only take 5 to 10 minutes to complete. And I'm like, is it 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Usually if you say 5 to 10, it means 15. And
that is true.
Ends up in your inbox and you go, I've got other things to do. Bang, you just delete it. But if I actually got sent one, a hard copy survey, and all I had to do was tick a couple of boxes and write, I didn't have to write War and Peace, and then put it back in an envelope that I knew I could just send straight back. Like I said, that is really simple. Plus, they were also our A-type patients. So therefore, we knew that they were probably going to put some effort in anyway. They weren't our D patients. If we sent them to our D patients, they would have taken the scratchy and run.
You got that right.
So when you're talking to a business the first time, so somebody comes up and they come to Indispensable Marketing. So if anyone's just jumped in somebody's car at the moment and you're listening to this recording, I'm talking to Patrick McFadden from Indispensable Marketing. And I assume that is just indispensablemarketing.com. That's where they'd find you?
That's correct.
Cool. I just thought I'd get that in there now. So you're now talking to someone who, a client for the first time. When you start talking about their marketing strategy, where do you start?
I always start with a diagnosis of where they are, where they're trying to go, and where they've been. I think if you're jumping in, I think the worst thing anybody can ever do is come and tell you what you need to be doing without assessing what you've already tried, what is working, and where are you trying to go. So for us, it usually starts with some type of audit or diagnosis for us to find that necessary information. But once that's done, I would say the next step is to really separate ideal customers from non-ideal customers.
Okay.
And from my experience, what classifies as ideal customers are two key characteristics. First, that customer is profitable for your business, meaning they have the right need, problem, budget, illness, whatever it is, they have the right it for your business and they're profitable. Second, that profitable customer or client or patient must talk about your business, which essentially means they refer your business.
Yeah.
If they have those two key characteristics, that is what I call an ideal customer. If they don't have that, that's not an ideal customer. First, a customer can be profitable but not talk about your business, and that just they may just be ideal. But the ones who are profitable but also talk about your business means that they understand the value that you're delivering, and they want to share that experience and the value that they're receiving with others, and that totally makes a difference. That's a different type of customer.
Is that like
Um,
when people talk about a raving fan?
well, it depends because I'm classifying a raving fan as someone who is profitable for your business, but also refers business to you.
Yeah.
So I don't. I've defined it based off working with tons of small businesses as that. I don't know what somebody else may, but if I had to say that's compared to a raving fan, I would say yes in that world.
Okay. And you said earlier on too that you also look at what they've done in the past to say to help them guide them in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to take a look at. I mean, you know how it goes. I always say that um, people who try diets and other things, they would say, well, I tried the 10 push-ups a week or a day and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But then you have to really break it down. Did you do a push-up on your knees or did you do a traditional push-up? Did you do a push-up with your elbows or
Yeah.
and a lot of times what you find is that it was executed wrong, but it may have been the right thing.
Okay.
And so in the marketing world, that may mean you had the wrong messaging, or you had the wrong call to action, or you had the wrong colors. And so there's a lot of tweaking and reviewing of what happened in the past. And it may be, again, maybe your customers have shifted over time. Maybe their attention is gone from, in America here, we have the yellow pages. Maybe it has gone from the yellow pages and online, and you know, you just haven't adjusted your approach. And so I think truly understanding what was done in the past. And here's the other thing that I found too, Tyson, that I think is important. I wrote an article, and people can find it on my LinkedIn profile that says what to do when leads dry up. And one of the pieces of advice that I give is what are the things that drove business when you didn't have a marketing budget, when you were not spending money on marketing? Because I find that very important because usually those things are the tried and true because you didn't have money.
Okay. So
And
when you
so
were first kicking off, what did you do when you first kicked off to bring business in? Sometimes that still may be good ideas. You're just not doing it anymore.
you got it. Exactly. When you get busy, you're like, I don't have time to do it anymore. And it's true. And it still may be a winner. And usually they are. It's very few times that those things are. I mean, like again, unless it's like a advertising type. But usually it's not because you're not spending money. So usually it's always a proven winner.
I used to find, networking. When I first, the two things that I did when I first started on the Gold Coast and then when I first started in Cairns, I did exactly the same thing both times, and I think it set the foundation for my business. And the first one was I got off my bum, and every person that I thought could be a professional referrer, I went and met them individually, one by one. It took me about 3 to 6 months to go and see everybody just so they could put a face to a name. And then the second thing I did was I went to every networking event that I could, and I networked the right way. I didn't go there just sticking my business card in everyone's face. I went there just to connect with people to find out who were like the shakers and the movers in the town, who did I need to be aware of, and then I built up relationships over a period of time, and they became my best referrers.
Yeah, that's the right way to do networking too. I find that when you go to networking events, I think the secret is truly understanding that you're a buyer of services for your network and clients. And what I mean by that, I go to every networking event. The reason that it's never a waste for me, because people say networking is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Not if you have the right approach. I'm going looking to truly understand what is it that this person that I just met, what do they do for a living? What are the problems that they solve? And by taking that approach, I'm able to ask very insightful questions and say, wow, so you're delivering that. My client needs that. And that means I'm taking a real vested interest in not just saying, what do you do? Oh, thanks. Here's my card and walk off. No, I'm really, and typically I'm at every event, I'm usually referring and connecting two or three people that said, hey, I heard in your, your little pitch, you told me you're looking for a real estate agent. Did you know that was a real estate agent I just met right there? Oh yeah, thank you. Let me walk you over.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And it's because I'm a buyer of services at networking events. I'm looking for who can solve my clients' problems or my network.
Yeah, and I also think what you just said then about connecting people together. I get such a buzz out of connecting two people, whether it's live at a networking event or even online. I've connected a lot of people online that I know have got similar interests, and I go, hey, here's an introduction. I think you two should talk. And what's good about that is they thank you for it afterwards, and you sort of move a little bit higher up on the totem pole in their sort of circle.
Oh yeah, I think that's a real proven a way to become a lead magnet. I think that it also makes you a lead magnet because then people are like, you need to go just talk to Go Tyson because he knows. And now I have this, I guess you call it life principle.
Yeah.
I believe that every opportunity is connected to a person. And if you could figure out how to get more people to come to you, you'll have more opportunities in life and you'll be aware of more opportunities than you could ever dream of.
Yeah, they say it's better to give than receive. And I think some people sit there in their businesses wanting to take from everybody, not realizing the more you give, the more you can connect other people, and you form this great circle around you. It's almost like it's like digging the well before you need the water. It's just making the connections, and and they'll come. I've actually got a quote on my office wall here behind me, and it says, the next connection you make could be the one that'll change your life. And I honestly believe that. Even chatting with you today, like we've never met personally, but just chatting with you today, that little connection that we make now, I don't know where that's going to lead us in next 12 months or maybe 5 years' time.
You know, I also believe another subset of that is the next piece of content you create could be the one that lands you somewhere that you never thought.
Beautiful. I love that.
That could be that piece that gets you on the local news, the one that gets you in a magazine, the one that you're one piece of content away from a big opportunity these days. You're one video, one article, one graphic away. Which means how many at bats do you want? So that means when you're creating the right content, what you're doing is you're giving yourself an at bat. And that at bat lives online 24/7, never sleeps.
So it's not, don't die wondering. It's like create content, put it out there, because that next piece of content could be the one that changes your life.
Absolutely. It can be the one that gets you your own. I think in America here, I just saw that they're advertising something called Dr. Pimple. And it's only because she started recording her interactions and she got like 2 billion views on YouTube. But now
Wow.
she has her own show
Okay.
on national television. But she's dubbed herself as the Pimple Doctor.
I'm going to stick with Dr.
And
T, not Dr. Pimple. I'm sorry.
I, and I was like, that's fascinating that she documented. She didn't really create. She says, this is my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
This is who I am. These are the people that walk into my office, everyday people who have problems, skin conditions, big, things growing in places. And she's like, I'm just going to document. I'm not going to, and somebody just takes out a camera and she's documenting what she does every day for a living, what she excels at. She's just documenting.
So when you're helping people putting their marketing strategies together, is helping them create content is a big part of it, or do you teach them to create content, or do you just tell them you need to create content, get out there and do it?
I like to take a more hands-on planning approach. So normally either we will map out what are the content themes and objectives that we want to have, or we also offer a service where it's called managed marketing, where we actually take it over and see it from the beginning all the way through, and we actually implement it and do the content creation. I'll give you an example. Uh, we have one client that's a high-end lawn care service company,
Yeah.
and the way that we've developed the content system, if you have to put it that way, is that in the field, their guys take photos. So what makes it great is that their mission is that it's landscaping that you're proud of. And so one of the things that they infuse throughout the business is that once you are done cutting a client or a customer's lawn, you have to step back and say, is that landscaping you're proud of?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, you need to go back out there and do what you need to do. And so, by everyone on their in their company asking that question, once they've done, they're so proud of the work they've done. They take pictures of it, they send it in to our marketing team, and those are the images that we use on Instagram and Facebook with some nice messaging around what they do well and what makes them different. And their business is up double digits this year.
Yeah, what I liked about that story then was the amount of people that have a business that do great work on a day-to-day basis and they never share it. They let photo opportunities go past. A patient may say to them, in podiatry, it's not always visual. You make up, someone comes in with knee pain, you make an insert, you put it in the shoe, you help with the knee pain. It's not something you can really take a photo of and go, look at that. But that patient may then turn around and say, you are the duck's nuts. You are so good at what you do. And they miss that opportunity. Wow, we'd love a review on Facebook. We'd love a review on Google. And they just let that opportunity slide past. Is it because they're not in marketing mode? They're not thinking about it all the time?
You got it. It's a mindset. It's If you're always thinking about how do I bring awareness to what I'm doing, you start to get real creative. In fact, um, in my world, let's say we're at a networking event, I
Yeah.
love when I have a great conversation with someone and they're like, oh my, yeah, that makes so much sense about marketing now. I know why. And I just gave them a little tidbit. And I was like, hey, they're like, can I take a picture with you? Or I'm like, can I take a picture with you? And I'm like, sure. Um, and in my head, I'm thinking, wait a minute, this picture is going to go on LinkedIn or Facebook. And I'm like, what if this is the picture that my son or daughter uses as a gateway to an opportunity? And they could just say, my dad knew your dad. Look at this picture.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the same thing for a medical practitioner. You help somebody's dad knee stop hurting, and next thing you know, your children are grown and they're like, oh wait a minute, I think my dad knew your dad. What? I think da 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 da. Here's the picture. Oh wow, there's that little mini connection that you built up, almost like a little legacy that your family could use as a gateway for opportunities in the future.
Like you said, I think it is a mindset. I don't think people think about it enough. It's especially when the business gets busier, they tend to forget about it. Then when it gets quiet, they think about it and they go through this helicopter thing up and down constantly. But it's how do you get your clients to just keep it top of mind that they're always in marketing mode? Is there a tactic you use to keep them switched on?
It's primarily weekly meetings and projects. People love to have like projects that they want to complete. And so I think by having instead of just saying, well, today's Tuesday, I'm going to write this. No, 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 no. Are we writing this monthly article because it's going to contribute to an ebook in 90 days? Oh, well, then they get real excited because it's accomplishing something bigger than just I'm waking up on Tuesday and trying to create something.
Okay.
And I think by making it a game, making it like projects, it's part of a bigger picture. And with the weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings, I think that's what really makes it work. and makes it puts it on their mindset more than just And I give you example. If you're talking about the medical practitioner taking pictures with patients,
Yeah.
I look at it like, what are the dual uses of this? We could use this for anniversaries for our patients. We could send this to during the holiday times. What are the ways that we could repurpose this and really personalize it? Maybe we then create a patient calendar. I think about all the other ways that this one piece could work for us, which I think when they start to really think about, and most of the time they have better ideas than I do. They're like, oh yeah, our patients really love. Well, why don't we do that? Then let's get the pictures, you know.
And I think you've just done a full circle there from when we first started, and I mentioned advertising, and then we're talking about the difference between marketing and advertising. What you just said then about repurposing and thinking about what else can you do with, say, a photograph, that is completely different when advertising is just a one-off thing and it starts and finishes. Marketing is taking that advertising and getting as much purpose out of it as you can, or repurposing it as much as you can.
Absolutely. And that you actually nailed it when you said it, getting as much usage as you can out of that graphic information or whatever it is. I think that's where the real value is. And that's where it saves, if you're a small business or entrepreneur, that's where it saves you time. Because now you're figuring out and you're being creative about bringing awareness using some of the same information and content, which saves you time, resources, and sometimes attention, because we have short attention spans as small business owners.
Oh, we do. I know that I do. My attention span is not always the best. So, Patrick, I have one final question. I can't believe how fast the time's gone. This is my Monday morning question, and it's Monday morning. You've pulled over at Macca's to get yourself a coffee. All of a sudden, the drive-thru's broken. So you've walked in. You've walked into Macca's. There's a guy there walks up and says, "You're Patrick McFadden. I heard you on It's No Secret with Dr. T. I'm about to walk into work. What's the number one tip that you would give me when my bum hits the chair this morning? What would you tell them they should do first up?"
Work with gratitude.
Work with gratitude?
Yep. I would say make a list of the things that you are grateful for, and then move forward with your day.
I like that. So you didn't give a marketing tip. I think that's brilliant.
No.
So be grateful for what you've got. Once you're grateful for what you got, then start thinking about your business and how you're going to market it.
Absolutely. I think that changes. Mindset is so huge. I know you probably talked to some people that look at everything as an opportunity. He's like, how can you look at everything as an opportunity? How can you look at that lemon and say you're going to make lemonade? And It's just about, well, I'm grateful I get a chance to even make lemonade. It's the attitude of really being grateful for the chance, the at bat, the initiative. And I think if you start your day with that and saying, wow, I have some really great customers. I have a chance to really make a difference in their life. I'm grateful for that. They trust me.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's also like you're being grateful that you've got good enough health that you can actually own a business. You've got good enough mental intelligence to know that you can own and run a business. So, yeah, that makes sense. It'll start with gratitude.
Absolutely.
Okay, Patrick, I think that is a fitting way to end this. Is there anything else that you think you just want to drive a point home before we do wrap this up? Is there anything that's lingering in your head you're going, oh, I wish I had thrown that out there?
The one thing that I want to leave with, the driving point is make sure you always have a way for somebody to sample your business. Whether that's through an audit, a consultation, a video testimonial, whatever it is, have a way for customers to date you and give you a try. I think if every business did that, they'll be a lot easier in closing the deal or having the contract signed or whatever.
Okay, and even with yourself, is it like doing a discovery call, chatting for someone for 15, 20 minutes first before even considering them as a client, just to see, hey, are we on the same page? Do we think we can work together? Do we like each other? Same sort of thing.
Absolutely. I think every business needs some way to date a customer. And if you don't have one, you need to really sit down and think about how do we date customers basically before we put a ring on it, before we say, yes, we're going to take this journey together
Yeah.
for worse or, how do we date customers? How do we really know that this is going to be a good fit? And, I think the more you do that, the better chance you have at not only having customers close, but you're going to pick better clients, which means you have a better life.
That is beautiful advice. So, Patrick, how can people get hold of you? How would you like them to get hold of you after they listen to this and they go, you know what, Patrick seems pretty cool, which he is. How would you like them to contact you or connect with you?
They could go to indispensablemarketing.com. You also can connect with me on Twitter. It's Pat M Marketing. And if they're on Instagram, they can connect with me at P McFadden, the number 7. And that's my handle on Instagram.
That is cool. And I will put all that information in the show notes. So, Patrick, thank you for coming on It's No Secret with Dr. T. Oh, I've got a friend who always says it's good when you're singing from the same hymn sheet. And that's how I feel today talking to you, that we're on the same wavelength when it comes to marketing. This has been fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, if you've been looking for some different marketing ideas, I would think you'd have to agree that Patrick McFadden has definitely opened the door on this conversation. And I loved it when he was talking about the difference between tactics and strategy, where some people think about tactics way before they think of strategy. And as he described it, it's like giving someone a prescription before you even have a diagnosis. Because first, you need to know your ideal customer or patient or client. Then you have to find the ideal problem that suits your business so that you can attract that ideal patient. And then you need to design the ideal tactic. So you've got to figure out your strategy first. Tactics comes second. I think if you walk away with that idea, it's going to totally change the way that you approach your current marketing. Now, here's some good news though. Patrick is going to be on again next week. After we finished our conversation on this particular episode, he touched on another point and I went, I wish we had spoken about that. And I said, can you come back on next week? He said, yes, you can. Here's a little snippet of what you're in for next week.
You're supposed to go to your marketing and say, we have a business goal of client retention for 2018, 2019. How does marketing operate in a way to help us with our client retention? And if you're that clear, then you're supposed to go to your HR. Hey, HR, we have a client retention. How does HR help us with client retention? Do we need to retain our own employees so they can have longer relationships with our clients? Maybe that. And so you really start to say, if your business has clear goals, you then go to every single department, HR, billing, marketing, sales, operations, and ask, how do what you're doing within that function within our business help us aid in this goal? And I was like, if they don't have that, there's no way marketing can even work because they're not clear enough on their business goals.
So I know for a fact you're going to love the second episode with Patrick McFadden. It just gets better and better the more I talk to him. Okay, I'm just about to go, but before I finish, last week I did a podcast called Create a Disaster Folder, and I received a lot of emails from people asking, did I have a set program of things that you should really be looking out for or that you should add to your disaster folder? If you want a copy of that list, please email me, tf@tysonfranklin.com, and I will send it directly to you. Okay, that's it from me. Look after yourselves, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.